Well, welcome to another edition of the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My name is Paul D'Allegro and your host today. And my guest is Aaron Busch. He works at Prescriptive Data Solutions, and that may sound familiar to some of you people. That's where I work too. So Aaron and I work together. So welcome to the show, Aaron.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. It's going to be a fun episode. So a couple of things.
I think so.
I did a little research into you, and I didn't realize like how many accreditations you have. Like you're a CCIE, you're a Microsoft Certified Master, Solutions Master, VMware. All the very impressive at any rate. I don't have those, just so you know.
They're very hard to get. So yes.
Yeah. A lot of, so really, what I want to talk about with you today, Aaron, is, when customers come to us and say, hey man, I want a data center transformation or whatever you want to talk about, right? I mean, you know the jargon there. This is where I want to be in X amount of years.
Right.
I guess the biggest question I have is, where do you begin? Like, what do you do? Like, because there's so many things going on between security and storage and compute and cloud and virtualization and all that stuff, and there's a lot of variables there. Where do you start?
Well, the biggest thing to start with is where you're at today. Transformation, data center transformation, or any transformation, whether it's cloud or data center or anything. It's really kind of where you're at today and where you want to get to. A lot of times what I'd like to do is come in and build a strategy on the next 3 to 5 years. 5 years is kind of pushing it, usually more 3 years. But 3 to 5 years, kind of what they look like. And some clients like to push to 10, see what that might be.
Is that realistic though, Aaron? 10 years? I mean, boy, technology changes so fast. Think about just 10 years ago.
I know we actually had a client earlier this year that wanted a 10-year ROI, and I was kind of pushing back a little bit because at 5 years, most likely quantum computing, quantum networking will be here in less than 5 years. And so what you build today for your enterprise is going to look a lot different. So it is a little bit of a unique use case that 10 years would actually be coming as an option. But typically a 3 to 5 year run is what most clients want to look at.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So they basically we come in to look at their current estate, what they have today, where they want to get to. If they really don't know what they want to get, or if they don't have a roadmap already, then we come in and kind of help develop that as well. But you really got to understand the current state and understand the business. A lot of times in the world of enterprise architecture, what I like to do in the strategy is to understand the business requirements kind of first and foremost, and really just processes, the applications, what it means to have 100% uptime, or RPO and RTOs, recoverability, what that looks like. Once you understand that, then we can kind of wrap the IT strategy around that. And a lot of times clients will kind of either not have them aligned, or they'll start looking at the, let's say, hyperconverged, infrastructure is a kind of a new technology out, and it's, collapses the 3-tier storage and can compute into one platform. Well, that's great for the IT, and it's great. It's a cool new thing, but what does that do for the business, and how does business benefit from that? So a lot of CIOs and a lot of leadership don't really look at it from a hyperconverged or 3-tier or just traditional compute, or even cloud. It's really the end user experience is what they utmost what they most care about. And so we come in and really kind of analyze that from the business leadership side, so that the budgets align, number one. Number two, the requirements align, so that we know at the end of the day, the reliability is kind of the key component for this, and the fact that I want to reliably know if something fails, what's my mean time to get back to operational state.
Yeah.
If something, if it's failure on data center side, if it's in the cloud, if it's a pure storage array or whatever that might be, um, what that looks like and how reliably I know or the team knows that how I get back to current operational state and with little to zero downtime.
Yeah, and I would assume every company is different, right? They have different recovery times, right?
100%.
Like
100%.
it could be a day, it could be a week, could be an hour, could be seconds, right? It's all over the board. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that's where a lot of the discussions I start with is just that. IT wants everything 100% uptime. They want dual data centers. They want multi-cloud. But the business may have a different view. They may have a view that says, well, I have these top tier applications. Let's say there's 5, and those have to be 100% uptime. The other 95 can be if something fails, there's a bump in the night, then they can be up in 5 hours or a day, whichever. So unless you have that basic understanding from the business, then most times IT will build something that the business doesn't see value in,
right,
and or perceive value in case of an emergency or some sort of outage. So that's kind of where it starts is really understanding that basic, and then once you have a clear roadmap of where things go for the business side for the applications, then you can start to build out what the IT strategy would be.
Yeah.
So a lot of my time is really spent around those conversations. Then you step back into whether it's data center transformation, cloud transformation, digital transformation, ERP, CRM, SAP, Oracle. So really just, again, starts with the business, it actually starts with the end user experience first, because then it just steps back into the business, the IT strategy, and then everything wraps underneath that.
Yeah, because everyone has a different agenda. That's what I found, Aaron.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're talking to a CISO or a CIO or a VP of technology versus the guy fat fingering, a system admin, that's probably a little lower than we would go. But you know what I mean? Like everyone's worried about their little environment and has different agendas.
Yeah, they're worried about their world, and that's where we want to more talk to the business than IT. Now, IT is still important for sure, but kind of stepping up higher in the echelons of the leadership to really understand, what they're, because they probably have had a current outage or a pain point they've suffered in the past 12 months or 18 months anyway. So try to understand that what was rectified, what rectified that issue, and has anything been done to thwart that in the future? Cyber attack, ransomware, an outage in the internet pipe is when circuits down or something like that. And so from a reliability standpoint, for architecturally standpoint, we want to make sure that everywhere in the architecture stack that we're doing as much as we can to make sure that if there's a failure, no, we can't, HA everywhere, of course. Then we don't HA in dual data centers and 3 data centers. I mean, you can get to a point where you just exercise it all the way out, and it can cost a lot of money. But if you do it right, and one of the designs that I like to propose to clients is a metro pair design for data centers. So, and traditionally, what some clients do is they have a production data center, then they have a DR data center, and so some of the assets in the DR data center, it's not really tested. You can't really fail over everything,
right.
And also it's kind of expensive to run just in case something fails in the production data center. If that makes sense. And so even if it's a hybrid, even if it's a data center that's in on-prem, and let's say it's hybrid. That also works too. It really just goes back down the end user experience and the applications. What the applications are, latency considerations, bandwidth considerations. That's really kind of what it entails to kind of build that picture, build that roadmap to success for the business.
Yeah. So if I understand you correctly, you've got to get all the business requirements first before you can do anything. Am I hearing you correctly?
For the most part. Now, if there's a point solution that, let's say that there's, an upgrade from, like a net app to a pure storage array. I think that's kind of, you don't really need to see business requirements all that much. But if it's a complete transformation, like if it's data center transformation to or cloud, then holistically, yes, you want to look at the business requirements. But when it comes to like point products like that, like NetApp to Pure or Pure NetApp, whichever, just understanding basic RTR, POs, SLAs, and some of those that are probably already mapped out.
Yeah.
And so really just it's kind of an easier conversation, but than the larger, bigger programs and instead of projects, actually program, because a program will entail multiple projects within the scope for 12, 18, 24, 3 years,
Right.
it's sometimes.
Yeah, no. And I would agree with you on that. I mean, if they already have a storage array in place and then just replacing it, there's, you don't need a science project to get that done, right?
Yeah, even going from one hypervisor to another, I mean, it's really just application supportability and migration, and that's kind of the lower in the realm of IT. It's business doesn't all much care because it's still servicing the same compute and storage that the applications need. So it's just a different spot and different vendor, really.
Yeah, no, I got you. So we find out the business requirements, kind of what the needs are, RPO, RTO, all those things. Now what do we do?
Yeah, once we understand that, then it's really talking with the IT architects, the CIO, IT leaders. What are they looking to achieve? Let's say there's 10 applications that have 100% uptime. They have a primary data center in one city and a DR data center in another city. These applications have to have 100% uptime. So we start looking at circuits. We start looking at latency between the data centers. So how much distance between the data centers, and then what's the feasibility to flip the VMs over, whether it's a metro design or geo-dispersed data center. Either one works, but it's really just about what the latency requirements of the application. So that if the end users are in one, let's say they're in the West Coast and your primary data center is West Coast, you have a DR data center in the East Coast. What does that look like from a latency perspective to the applications? And so that's when we start to really dive into the technical side of what the requirements kind of matching and meeting those business requirements of the uptime. And then, let's say it's like 10 out of 100 applications. And then once we kind of show the business, hey, this is what we have today. And it's going to add some latency. They may not really know what latency is, but if the end user experience just lacks what it was before, they may have some buy-in to say, okay, what can we do to bring that closer in, or look at what does the application need to refactor, or reformat, readjust to a point where maybe it's a legacy application. So that kind of uncovers something like that too. So then that's when you start getting more technical pieces of the transformation program.
Now, normally, and you said if someone comes to you and they want to completely transform, it's going to take several years. What do you do first?
Thanks.
What do you do first? They say we have a 5-year plan to get here.
Yep.
Because to me, that's always the tough part is, okay, what apple do we pick first, right? I mean, where are we going with this?
Usually it's around contracts and circuits and data center co-locations. Okay. So the longest lead times are those two most times. We've kind of gotten past some of the supply chain issues of several years ago. So really it's just mounting the circuits and even that, honestly, with Megaport, if it's lit up to be Megaport in a co-location, that's actually pretty easy, even easier now too. But by and large, legacy WAN circuits typically take 30, 60, 90 days to get, so it really depends on the contract. So did they just sign a new 3-year agreement? Can we swing that circuit over somewhere else, or if it's in the same region of data center? So starting to look at the data center, where the compute storage actually land, is kind of the first step. And then in your life cycle is the second. Where are you in the life cycle of your compute, your storage, your network, and your core? And and it does that align with it? So most times it doesn't. So
Yeah.
that's when a 3 to 5 year plan typically makes a lot more sense than maybe an 18-month. Just it really depends on where you're at. So maybe just did a refresh of your core, okay, and it's solid. Maybe it's Nexus or ACI or Arista or whichever. So that core is set. Okay, good. And then the data center is good, and maybe we tweak the circuits on the DWN on the dark fiber to the other data center to bring it closer in, or look at adding some CN on both sides or something like that. So then you start to really dive into the more technical side of the transformation, really kind of pull together the broader TCO that the business will want to see at the end. So we kind of understand the business requirements. We start diving into the technical pieces of the life cycle, the co-locations, the circuits, the what's kind of current state. And then maybe they want to shift from a 3-tier to a hyperconverged, or a 3-tier, or stay 3-tier, whichever one. And then what's important for the business to understand is the TCO. What is it going to cost for me? One, cost to achieve my goal, which is in over a 5-year span. But what's my support look like over those 5 years?
Yeah.
What's contracts may overlap. You may have 3 data centers for a little while you can consolidate one. So we really try to dive in as close as we can to those assets and then those pieces around the TCO in general.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And, you kind of touched on it about cost, right? If someone spent $1 million on a new compute environment, you kind of stuck with that for 3 to 5 years, right? I mean, let's face it, you don't just rip.
Yeah.
It's hard to rip and replace, right?
Yeah, for sure. And actually a lot of it's more flexible now. So for a long time, there was either the 3-tier world or hyperconverged infrastructure world, and those two really didn't meet. They didn't talk to each other. That's actually being relaxed a lot. So Dell, Pure, and others are actually building partnerships with other hyperconverged infrastructures, so that you can kind of have that blended model, the hybrid model, so to speak. And so I think that's that, and that I think those vendors kind of knew, both of them knew, like, we if you can't beat them, join them, kind of thing. I think, but I think it works well for clients at the end of the day, because you can't always rip and replace. You can't always just bring in the new tech, rip out the old within if your life cycle's got 3 more years on it, you're not done amortizing that on the books. And so it doesn't make sense. But if you can bring in a new tech, whichever one, then you kind of stair step it in. You can kind of phase it in as you like. Because there might be some assets that can only be on bare metal and 3-tier.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah. What do you see as some of the biggest mistakes companies make? We have the advantage of having lots of customers to see what everyone does. Yeah. And so you're a very experienced, seasoned guy. What are you seeing out there
for data center transformation? A lot of it is IT. The IT department most times, without what I've seen in the past, leadership will dictate most everything. If IT doesn't really understand the business side, the processes, the technology, and the people, and what it's delivering for, if it's a trucking company, if it's warehouse, if it's document, collection, whatever that might be, if they really don't understand that, and from the leadership level, they didn't understand what the business requirements are to meet the IT needs, then most times you'll find that IT will just do what we've always done.
Yeah.
And just kind of stay the course, or maybe they bring in something. They look at bringing in a new core for network, have an idea of what zero trust might be and things like that. But they just kind of don't really step outside the box, because they've just kind of always the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
If they are pushing the envelope and not really looking for the pitfalls and landmines that we, to your point, that we felt seen out in the wild, life cycle change management, not really knowing what the cutovers look like, migrations, relocating assets, basically renting a U-Haul, putting in assets or racks inside of U-Haul when it's not really strapped down, it's not static free foam, all the things, climate control vehicles, and then they try to move it themselves. So it just becomes, and I know that it's not that's impossible. It's just we've been through those moments and been through those times where we've seen those happen, and we know kind of the pitfalls to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that I've seen, again, I'm not a technical guy, I'm sales, but it just the Band-Aid approach to things out there.
Yeah.
And
well, and the converse of that is the non-Band-Aid. So I'm just talking about security, letting a legacy 6509 sit in your environment today when it's end of life, into support, unless you have a third party, and it's even like security patching. So it could be security related too. That's one of the things that, well, it's just running, it's just working. So we just don't touch it.
Yeah. No need to do anything, right?
Right. And the uptime of the switch is like 5 years or 10 years. And I've seen this. And so that tells me that their change management is not really mature in the sense of really looking at their security posture too. Looking at it from a security posture and kind of knowing what really we should be doing. And so that's kind of band-aiding it. Yeah, well, we'll just upgrade, we'll just renew this and just kind of continue on what we've been doing. Even though the business wants us to innovate, we hear that they're doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And if we add on this other company, we buy them, if they merge with us, can we adopt them? They're on, let's say, Cisco ACI, and we're on, Catalyst, or we're on some other platform. Well, we're not going to really integrate that well, So pushing the envelope, yes, but also being modernized when it comes to wherever you can, so that if that's a business, if the business has that in their portfolio, then that's where we kind of want to make sure that they at least know kind of what best practices are, and if it's cloud related or it's on-prem.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. So, you go through this whole process. So what happens? You get to the customer, you give them the number, and normally it's a pretty big number, right?
Right.
And after they fall off their chair and get up, now what do you do?
Yeah. So what we do is by and large we want to give them options, and when architecture delivers options to the business, and so at the end of the day, after we do the assessment of requirements and do workshops with the IT staff, develop that technology, the architecture roadmap to the business. They'll see the roadmap for sure, but they're going to look at what it costs to achieve to get there, and what the options are. So we always want to come with options on, let's say, your current state is this. Option one is this model, option two, this model, and then what are the financials wrapped around that, those options. And then the business can say, this meets our requirements, this is in budget, but we can do maybe 60% of this, and then we can adjust the roadmap as needed, of course. There are sometimes we can come in and handle 5-year mock-up plan. We don't know everything, but a 5-year plan, and then that way they can see what it could look like from an amortization standpoint and a budget standpoint.
Yeah.
And then most times, to your point, most times big, large multi-data center programs do have investment, but if we kind of put it to a point where we're planning it right, then the budget, if you amortize it, most times if you look at it, let's say it's $12 million. If you amortize that over 5 years, it's X million dollars a year. And if their budgets are within that money, it's not just one number one time. Most times that's going to be stretched out over 18 months anyway, or even more.
So I got a question for you, Aaron. You put a 5-year plan together.
Yeah.
What happens? You get to year 2 and things change, right? They say, "Oh, business has changed. Now what do we do? We got to change direction. How do you handle that?
Well, that's a good question. Depends on but it depends on where they're at in their life cycle. So let's say they're looking at the network core. That's kind of your heartbeat of your data center and your cloud is the network. Right? Everything has to connect and talk to something or talk to each other. If they're looking at a network core upgrade, that's where you kind of start your modernization, like at the get go. Everything else can kind of come later, if as needed. There have been times in the past where we put together this type of roadmap and this type of program, and things do change. Whether it's a divestiture or an acquisition,
Sure.
and kind of have to pivot from there. No one can have a crystal ball and project the future, but if they're in life cycle of modernizing their network core, I'd say start there first, and then look at other technologies as you go along. But whether it's three tier hyperconverged or multi cloud, what that looks like. So network, if the core network has modernized network, and what I mean by that is automation,
Sure.
infrastructure as code, zero trust. You'll be in pretty good state from there, and then that's your base.
Sure.
And then you bolt on your WAN circuits and everything else.
Yeah. No, that actually makes sense, Aaron. Is that if you don't have a core that's modern and updated and secure, everything else is meaningless, right?
Right. Well, it's just like a foundation.
Yeah.
Foundation of the home or building. I mean, the network is the way in which we communicate from an IT perspective, whether it's voice, where it's compute storage applications. So, in addition to that is your data center. Now, if it's on prem or if it's co-location, that's all. That's kind of your second base, your foundation.
Yeah.
And then everything else kind of bolts on from there.
Very nice. Well, you've been doing this for, I think, 30 years, Aaron, without giving your age out.
Yeah, it's IT has been in my life since probably early 80s.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been in IT as a professional for almost 30, pushing 30 years, 28-ish. But yeah, it started back in 1983 with I got Apple IIe. So I was green screen programming, doing all the things. And kind of an interesting travel or journey for me to get where I'm at today. I've always been interested in building things from scratch or from nothing. So it's kind of started with programming, but also started kind of parallel to that with art. And just a quick side note, but art has always been a passion of mine, whether it's music or it's art, painting.
Well, I see you have a guitar behind you, so I'm assuming you play it.
Yes. I try to.
Yeah.
The Strat it's a 94 anniversary Fender Strat, so pretty proud of that one. I was actually able to pick that one up in Minneapolis some years ago, and the red one I've had for about 25 years.
Yeah. Now you say art. Do you mean like, are you an artist too, painting and sculpting and all this other stuff, or no?
No. When I was younger, yes. So I've always been interested in and always fascinated with taking something from what it is now to something that's better or different than it is, at the end state. So I had like I said, yeah, Apple IIe or just, the Apple days, programming art's kind of parallel to those. And then as I got older, wanted to be an architect. Frank Lloyd Wright was a inspiration of mine. And so I even went to college for architecture, and went to work as a architecture, I guess intern, what you call it. It's been on so long, for a firm in Houston. And within a few months, I realized I wanted to do something else. Wasn't not that I didn't love architecture, but this IT director role came up, and like I said, IT technology has always been in my blood from the very beginning. So that's where I kind of got my start. And it was the mid '90s, back when we had dial-up at the office and public IP addresses on all computers back then, because the internet was just kind of being born at that time.
Wow,
and so
I,
we changed that. We changed that quickly, obviously, but Novell.
Well, there wasn't hackers out in those days, right?
No,
No.
It's crazy because Novell server we had 4 gigs of RAID 1 storage.
Wow, all that 4 gigs, huh?
Yeah. So from those days into the the consulting space, it's been almost 30 years now. So wow. It's crazy,
unbelievable.
It's been a lot of fun. I love what I do.
Yeah.
It's,
no, and you're very good at it too, Aaron. It's something to be said about it. There's a lot of guys that are, architects out there that can put pen to paper, but you got the soft skills too.
Well, I always wanted to be an architect. It was just a different form than I originally thought.
Yeah.
There's
it's interesting in our business. They call them solutions architects, but they're really not like certified, like an engineering degree with a certification and all that.
Right.
How does someone call themselves a solutions architect? Like what qualifications do you think is needed?
I'll answer in 2 ways. One is in the VAR space. It's really solution architects are more generally just primary pre-sales. That's what their focus is.
Yep.
It's not a degree per se.
Sure.
That I'm aware of. But in the enterprise space, in the corporate enterprise, a solution architect is typically going to be someone who works on applications and business analysis, things of that nature. They more kind of focus on the technical pieces around apps and data lakes, data science, things like that. The enterprise architect more focuses on strategy on now that's either VAR or corporate enterprise. More on strategy, kind of business requirements and compliance, operational continuity, structured workflow, all that good stuff. So that's what their primary role is. And then and even that it's kind of more of a modern EA, whereas before EA enterprise architects would just draw vague pictures and hand it down to the solution architects, and then they would hand it down and down to the developers and the implementation. So for me anyway, I kind of approach it more of a modern EA the fact that we can do the roadmaps and pre-sales, and as you mentioned, CCAs, I can get my hands dirty if needed. These days, John Parker and his team are smarter than I am, so they can handle all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just more of a blended hybrid role that I have from a cross platform of data center, cloud, and networking. So
very good. Well, Aaron, I know how to get in touch with you because I work with you. But if someone out there wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Sure. Yeah. A Busch at prescriptive Solutions. So ABUSCH at prescriptive.solutions.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, thoroughly enjoyed it. This is, I know, I've actually been thinking about getting you on the show for a while, and I finally just made it happen. So,
yeah, it's been great, Paul. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's my first podcast, so this is exciting. Hopefully, more to come.
Yeah, it'll come out good. You did great today, and so the people out there know how to get in touch with you. So I think we'll end on that note. And so, again, appreciate you having you on, Aaron, and I will see you soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, have a good day. We'll talk soon.
Yep. And that's a wrap for another edition of the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. This is Paulie D signing off. Until next time.